From the tip all the way down to the grip, there's one thing a pool cue's got to be, and that's straight as an arrow. If there's any kink in the wood, you wouldn't be able to control your shot and put the spin on the ball. So how do you make a wooden cue that won't warp or crack? There is nothing more important to a pool cue than the kind of wood used to make it. So making a pool cue starts with slowly shaving down blocks of wood called hard rock maple on a lathe to turn the square blocks into round dowels. Hard rock maple is one of the most popular woods for pool cues. This is because it's a tough, straight-grained wood that absorbs shock well, so it isn't likely to crack. It's also dense and heavy, so is hefty enough to knock the balls around. For this pool cue, they need to shape 3 pieces of maple. One for the top half, or shaft of the stick, that tapers down to the tip, and 2 more for the bottom half, called the butt. It's made of 2 different pieces of maple that get permanently joined together. They make the stick in parts because 3 shorter pieces are less likely to warp than 1 long one. Each piece has to be shaped down in 3 stages over a 2-year period. This is to allow the wood to completely dry out so it won't warp later on. But even when it's dry, wood can still warp. So for even more protection against warping, the piece of wood that will be tapered into the shaft is reinforced with a carbon fibre core. Carbon fibre is 5 times stronger than steel at just 1/3 of the weight. It strengthens the cue without weighing it down. When the core is in place, a second lathe tapers the shaft by slowly shaving down the width of the wood. The most popular taper in American bars is called a European taper, which tapers gradually from the tip all the way down for a more stable shot. But this cue is getting what's called a pro taper. It doesn't start widening out until about 25 centimeters down from the tip, which gives a far more accurate shot. Once the shaft is finished, the second piece of maple is turned into the top half of the butt, called the forearm. This solid piece has to be perfectly round to within 0.04 of a millimeter. If it's not, the cue could wobble when you shoot. When the forearm is perfectly round, it's embellished with a little style. A computer-controlled milling machine carves out an intricate design so it can be filled in with decorative inlays like abalone, pewter or exotic woods. The maple wood is so hard, it takes a milling machine, usually used on metal, to do the work. After the design is milled, a worker fills each cutout by gluing in a custom inlay with a clear epoxy. For this cue, it takes 146 individual pieces to fill in the design. Each one has to be placed by hand. A design like this won't help your game, but it's sure to win points for style. After all the inlays are in place, the lathe smooths out the design and shaves away the extra glue. The lathe doesn't hurt the inlays because the pieces are set deep enough and are strong enough to survive the carbide tip. The forearm comes out of the lathe with a clean, smooth, inlaid design. When the design work is finished, it's time to start putting the pieces of the cue together. The ornate forearms roll into a computer-controlled boring machine. This shaves down the end and bores a hole through the center so it can be joined to the third and final piece of the cue, the handle you hold onto, called the wrap. The wrap is the biggest and heaviest part of the pool cue. It's what gives the cue its muscle. The same boring machine carves a peg into one end of the wrap so it will fit into the hole in the forearm. A drill then hollows out the peg to make room for the steel rod that holds the pieces together. A worker adds a dab of epoxy to permanently join the forearm to the butt or back half of the cue. And a final spin on the lathe smooths out the seam to complete the butt. The butts are temporarily joined to their shafts so the whole cue can be sprayed with a urethane finish. It seals out moisture that could warp the wood. After the urethane dries, the shaft is held in a rotating vise to get one final sanding and waxing. A metal joint is installed on the widest end of the shaft to lock it to the butt. And the wrap or handle of the cue is covered in leather to give the player something to grip. A quick roll test checks the finished cue for straightness. A wobble in the roll means it's crooked. Only if it's wobble-free does the cue move on to the last step, to be fitted with a brown leather tip at the end of the shaft. Then this cue is ready to clear the table.